Major League Baseball, MLB, has a rich history spanning over a century, and during that time, some teams have struggled more than others. Despite the sport's competitive nature, several teams broke records for futility that are still in effect today. These records serve as a stark reminder of the huge issues that teams may have due to a lack of skill, limited resources, and a variety of other issues. It is interesting to look at some of the MLB clubs with the worst records in such a way and see what exactly went wrong for these teams. 10. Detroit Tigers, 2003, 43-119.265. In 2003, the Detroit Tigers were in the middle of a 13-season slump. With a record of 55-106 in 2002, many believed that the squad had reached its lowest point. Instead, the Tigers overachieved by losing more games than ever before in a season, which was the only way they could have. Before September, they had lost 100 games, and they only managed to win 5 of their final 6 games to escape setting a modern major league record. Detroit then made history by having the top 3 losing pitchers on the same staff for the first time. The leaders were Mike Maroth, 9-21, Jeremy Bonderman, 6-19, and Nate Cornejo, 6-17. On a more positive side, the Tigers did manage to rebuild and make it to the World Series by 2006, when they were defeated by the St. Louis Cardinals in 5 games. 9. St. Louis Browns, 1898, 39-111.260. The St. Louis Browns struggled during the years before they changed their name to the Cardinals. The group had won 4 straight American Association championships from 1885 to 1888. The Browns, however, started a 7-year run of losing seasons when they joined the National League in 1892. This one had 3 10-game or longer losing streaks, 2 of which occurred in July. The Browns went 3-24 in that month. This poor sequel should not come as much of a surprise after the team's disastrous 1897 effort, see below. To claim that this was not the worst season in the team's history is, however, damning with thin praise. 8. Philadelphia Athletics, 1919, 36-104.257. In 1901, the Philadelphia Athletics were one of the original teams to join the American League. The team quickly established itself as a dynasty, winning 3 World Series and 6 pennants between 1902 and 1914. However, following the Boston Braves' sweep of the 1914 World Series and players defecting to the Federal League, manager Connie Mack purged nearly every valuable player in favor of younger, cheapest players. The Athletics went on to finish last in the league from 1915 to 1922 as a result of the quick and violent decline that followed. Due to World War I, the 1919 season was cut to 140 games, although there were at least 14 less heartbreaks for their fans. 7. Washington Senators, 38-113.252. The Senators, another founding member of the American League, failed to have a winning season for the first 10 years of their existence. The 1904 election season was the worst ever. The squad came in dead last in each of those categories because they could not hit, could not take a walk, could not score, and struck out more often than any other American League team. They had the most errors in the league, and their pitching was just as terrible, all of which played a part in the Potomac experiencing another dismal summer. The season was so terrible that the team's ownership tried renaming them as the Nationals. That also fell short, up until the team moved to Minnesota following the 1960 season and changed its name to the Twins. Fans, the media, and everyone else continued to refer to them as the Senators. 6. New York Mets, 1962, 40-120.250. The 1962 Mets are most likely baseball's greatest enduring icon of futility in the modern era. The Mets were baseball's attempt to make up for the departure of both the Dodgers and Giants from New York City. They were a combination of elderly stars, cast-offs, and misfits. Ineptitude of historic proportions was what the supporters received throughout their first season. Starting first baseman Marvelous Marvin Thornberry, best epitomized that spirit. According to one tale, Thornberry hit a triple but was ruled out for failing to touch second base. Do not bother arguing, Casey, he missed first base, too, the umpire told manager Casey Stengel as he walked out to make his case. Although threatened, see the 2003 Tigers above, their modern record of 120 losses has never been matched. 5. Boston Braves, 1935, 38-115.248. In 1935, team owner Emil Fuchs was looking for a strategy to boost attendance and revitalize his squad. His response was to sign Babe Ruth away from the Yankees. Fuchs made a number of promises to Ruth regarding ownership of the team's revenues and his status as McKechnie's likely successor, none of which he meant to keep. Ruth, on the other hand, was now hardly able to field his position or swing a bat. After batting only .181 with 6 home runs and 72 at-bats due to frustration, Ruth announced his retirement on June 1st. The team concluded the season with the poorest record in the majors, finishing a staggering 6,112 games out of first place. Fuchs was fired as owner in August. Up until 1953, when they moved to Milwaukee, the Braves stayed in Boston. 4. Philadelphia Athletics, 1916, 36-117.235. The Philadelphia Athletics had, as was already mentioned, a less than favorable period in between dynasties. The Athletics had a second performance that would break the previous American League record for losses after going from best to worst in 1915. Up until the 2003 Tigers, that record remained unbroken for 87 years. The Athletics and, coincidentally, the Detroit Tigers combined for a record 30 walks on May 9th during a 16-2 Tigers victory, which is one of the year's more dubious accomplishments. A league-high 715 walks were issued by the Athletics this season, with 18 of those walks coming from them in that particular game. The fact that Wally Scheng became the first player to hit home runs in a game from both sides of the plate on September 8th was at least one highlight. 3. St. Louis Browns, 1897, 29-102.221. The Browns' 1897 campaign was a complete disaster, and it is difficult to overstate that. No time did the team have a winning streak longer than 2 games. They had only 3 victories after August, mostly as a result of a losing skid of 18 games in September, and they finished the season strongly. Red Donahue, who was their greatest pitcher, threw 348 innings in 46 games and had a 6.13 ERA on his way to a 10-35 record. The Browns finished 6,312 games off of first place due to their season's poor pitching and middling hitting. However, they at least had a better record than the 2 teams that came in last and third. 2. Pittsburgh Alleghenys, 1890, 23-113.169. The Pittsburgh Alleghenys had a 441-617 record between 1882 and 1890, finishing only twice above .500. The team's talents, including future Hall of Famer Pud Galvin, defected to the Upstart Players League in 1890 along with many other players from the National League. The subsequent Alleghenys season was uncharacteristically poor. In almost every major measure, including at the plate, on the mound, and in the field, the team ranked last or next to worst in the league. The Players' League collapsed the next season, giving the Alleghenys the victory. The majority of their old players were hired back by the owners, who reorganized the team as the more successful Pittsburgh Pirates. 1. Cleveland Spiders, 1899, 20-134.130. The 1899 Cleveland Spiders have the honor of having the worst record in MLB history. The crazy thing is that they might have got without even playing 162 games. Despite having a brief 154-game season, they have more losses overall than any other losing club in baseball history. The St. Louis Perfectos were also purchased by the Robinson family before the 1899 season, which is the Spiders' current dilemma. Because the family gave the majority of Cleveland's top players to the Perfectos, who managed to finish the season with a respectable 84-67 record, there was obviously a conflict of interest that was not handled appropriately. In any case, the Spiders were only able to win 20 games because they were without their top players from the previous season. Over time, the crowd fell and the Spiders began to play most of their games away from home. One of the longest losing streaks in baseball history, the Spiders' 24-game losing skid at one time contributed to the lowest winning percentage ever recorded in the sport.